getting back to Baba Basri. Take 30 seconds break before part 2. Stretch your legs and whatever, walk around the room. I'm going to get my notes. Okay, we're back at the hotel. Better than the Golden Gate Bridge, Kohanchi, that you had up in your. What I'd like to focus on today, Rabbosai, and this is something that perhaps we'll develop and finish up tomorrow, is the following. Shitas tells with respect to Makire Kahuna. At very first glance, the opinion of Tosfos is that the institution, Tosfos tells us that the Makire Kahuna is based on the concept of Matana Mu'etes. Now, the concept of Matan Mu'etes that we learned briefly yesterday in the Gemara B'Metzia is that if I say I'm going to give you a present and it's not an expensive present, then it's improper for you to back out. Let's keep in mind, what's the situation over here? Let's get back to the range. So there's a Yisrael that shechs an animal. The Yisrael shechs the animal, and this Yisrael did not actually give it to the Kohen yet. Before I had a chance to give it to the Kohen, before I had a chance to give it to Joe Cohen died. And now, says the Brisa, that the Bechor gets Pishnayim. Why does the Bechor get Pishnayim? Well, according to the Rashbam, according to Rashi in Gittin, the Zrol L'chaim Cable is already owned by Joe Cohen, the father. Based on the fact that there was a 4 years das from Rashbam, based on the fact that the other Kohanim, they're Messiah das, according to Rashi and Gittin. Now Tosfos says that which the Bechor will get the Pishnayim is due to the fact that this is a Mochzak. And why is it Mochzak? Because after all, when the father said he'd give, or when the father has been giving Joe Cohen his matnas kun of the past 20 years, so it's improper for the father to back out. It's improper for him to decide he's not going to give it to Joe Cohen. And therefore, somehow Joe Cohen is a Mochzak. Now, at first glance, it would seem that tells us of the opinion that the concept of Mochzak doesn't require ownership. We consider Joe Cohen to have been Mochzak on this animal, on this Zrol L'chaim Cave, despite the fact that he didn't have ownership. All he had is this commitment on the part of the Yisrael to give it to him. That's a wild chiddush. It so based on this wild chiddush, in fact, assumes that if one swears to give a present to Harry, even though there's no kinyan done, nevertheless, if Harry should die, then the Bechor gets Pishnayim. Okay. So that's the simple reading of Tosfos. That's what the Tosfos understood Tosfos. I do want to touch upon today. I want to discuss today 2 alternative ways of reading Tosfos, 2 alternative ways of understanding Tosfos, according to which Tosfos will not be saying something so wild. According to the approaches which we'll take today, Tosfos will agree that one could only be called Mochzak. The Kohen is only considered to be Mochzak if, in fact, the Kohen has ownership on the Zrol L'chaim and Kegel. Without that ownership, no one in the world would be considered to be Mochzak. Just the question is, how are we going to read Tosfos? After all, Tosfos of the opinion, Tosfos just says it's Asr Lasa. So how are you going to read that into Tosfos? So over here, as we'll see, there are 2 approaches. There's the approach of Rav Elchanan and Kovish Shurim on one hand, and the approach of the Stipler, the Kilos Yaakov on the other. Part of the Stipler I sent out right before Shiur, so you guys could look at that. The Kilos Yaakov you have on the top right of the Marmakomal sheet, which now we're either going to look at or Shiur is going to finish because I'm going to lose you guys. Let's see if I could do this. You know what? I don't see if I loaded the Rav Hanan. So you guys hopefully you have the Rav Hanan. You have Rav Hanan. Just Amira Ba'alma brought on the Rav Hanan thanks to Yisrael. Okay. You are abolish the screen. Okay, you can make it a little bit smaller. We could, right. Okay, wonderful. So in any case, the basic point of Rav Hanan is simple. I'm sorry we did not read Tosfos inside yet, something that we should do. Maybe we'll have a chance to do that. But the basic point of Rav Hanan is very simple. He has a new understanding of the Gemara in Bava Metzia. He understands that Matana Mu'etes does not only establish a moral obligation, but rather Matana Mu'etes is something which generates a kinyan. I'm sorry? Somebody say something. I'll take that as enough. Eitan. Yeah. Let me point out, actually, let me take a step back. I indicate that we're going to be talking about approaches, respects to three approaches in Tosfos. The simple reading of Tosfos, the way that Tosfos understands Tosfos, and two additional approaches, Rav Hanan and the Stipler. I want to point out the following. Is Tosfos a totally independent Shita? Is Tosfos very different than the Rashi Bam and very different than Rashi and Gittin? Well, if you understand Tosfos the way the way the Ketsos understands Tosfos, then Tosfos is radically different. Then Tosfos is the whole thing that one is considered to be most likely even without there being proper ownership. On the other hand, if you understand Tosfos like Rav Hanan and like the Kilos Yaakov, then Tosfos is not very different than the other Shitos. In fact, according to Rav Hanan, then Tosfos will be very, very similar to the Rashi Bam. And if you learn Tosfos like the Stipler, then Tosfos will be very similar to Rashi in Gittin. And you'll see what I mean in a bit. According to Rav Hanan, Tosfos is of the opinion that Matana Mu'etes does in fact generate a kinyan. And certainly the strongest basis he has for this is Tosfos in Ksubis. Tosfos in Ksubis at the top middle of that sheet, just to the left of that Rav Hanan, Tosfos in Ksubis in fact says, we mentioned this Tosfos in Ksubis when we discussed the Rashbam. Tosfos in Ksubis in fact says that there are times when just Amira Ba'alma generates a kinyan. And what source does he cite? Well, he cites the Gemara over there that says, Hein Hein Advar Manikin Ba'amira, but he also cites a Gemara in Bava Metzia Daf Mem Tes. He cites the din of Matana Mu'etes. So that Tosfos does certainly seem to understand that the din of Matana Mu'etes does generate a kinyan. The lashon of the Tosfos, V'od Shamina Rav Yochanan Ba'azav, Anosen Matana Mu'etes Lechaberu Kana. The word kana doesn't appear in the Gemara. I don't know if he had a different girsa, but that's the way you understood that Gemara. Alpha Pish Lo Yeliada, the Gamar Umaki. Hanami also there in Ksubis. So Rav Hanan, based on Tosfos in Ksubis, understands that Matan Mu'etes generates a kinyan. Now, why would others not learn our Tosfos like Tosfos in Ksubis? Presumably due to the fact that our Tosfos doesn't mention anything about kinyan. Our Tosfos sounds like it's just an Easter las. So let's take a look at Rav Hanan. So those cuts of Makir Kuna Abikuma Matana Mu'etes, the Asalasta, by Mikam Kamehan Khazrasa, Lachora Mashma, Makir Kuna Lo Zachu Adain at Shtab Yad. The simple reading of Tosfos. The Chayman Aksos. MS, line 5, EF the parish game. You cannot say there's no kinyan, because after all, the Gemara indicates in Gittin that the Kohen can sell his share to Yisrael. After all, I lent $100 to Max Cohen. I lent $100 to Mr. Cohen with the understanding that I would collect the debt through my keeping the truma. And the Gemara indicates in order for that to be able to work, in order for me to be able to collect the debt in keeping the truma, then when I'm not for truma, I need to somehow see to it that that truma will belong to that Max Cohen. And how do I do so? Well, through my kirikuna will belong to that fellow Cohen. So I'm selling my share to that Cohen. Well, I can only sell something which belongs to me. So if you said it's not zocha, how can you sell something which isn't yours? And similarly, v'chein mesugin before line 9, the morish as banav. That there's Yerusha. V'ma morish lo zacha man, ech yorish levanav. How can it be morish something you don't have? Mixos writes that, hey, if you swear to give something to your friend, since he can't be choser, then there's a Yerusha, and before we get to Shnayim, what says the statement? That's far out. The Divrei Teimahain. Shmuel doesn't do a kinyan. How can it be morish? So it's not zocha. So rather, he points out, Tosas and Ksubis says that there's certain things you don't require a kinyan. Since you have full Gemiras Das, Sirkona without a kinyan. And Tosas means derived from Matan Muetas. Now, how does Tosas know that Matan Muetas there's a kinyan? So he says that Rabbi Chanan brings some right from the continuation of the sugya there. The continuation of the sugya in Bab Metzia has some halacha, a halacha which Rabbi Chanan says points to the fact that Matan Muetas does in fact generate a kinyan. What is that raya? We'll state it now briefly. Maybe tomorrow we'll discuss it more. It says the following. The Gemara there indicates, let's point out, the Gemara in Bab Metzia does not mention Makirei Kuna. What the Gemara there though does say is the following. Let's say, again, I'm a Yisrael, and I'm mafresh trumos to Meisers. We know that before one eats Meiser, what do you need to do? One needs to be mafresh trumas Meiser. The Levi, or the Yisrael, is mafresh trumas Meiser. So let's say I, Israel, have 100 apples, and I mafresh 10 apples as a mice. And I tell Joe Levy that I'm going to be giving him these 10 apples as mice. Okay, so it says that Joe Levy is able to do the following. First, parenthetically, let me ask you the following. Let's say Joe Levy has 10 apples of Meiser in his house, and 10 apples of Meiser somewhere else. And he needs to, he has 90 apples of Meiser somewhere else. So before he eats the 10 apples here, or the 90 apples somewhere else, what does he need to do? It needs to be mafresh, trumas Meiser. So of course, he can make the 10 apples here in the house, trumas Meiser on what's found somewhere else, right? He needs to make 10 apples out of the 100 trumas Meiser. Okay, so it says the Gemara in Bab Metzia that if I told the Levi that, hey, I'm giving you 10 apples of Meiser, then that Levi, even before I actually handed over the Meiser, since this has the din of Matana Mu'etes, he's able to make those 10 apples of Meiser into Trumas Meiser. He's able to make it into Trumas Meiser on other Meiser which he has. Now to make the 10 apples of Meiser, which I said I would give him into Trumas Meiser. So hey, should he be able to make those apples into Trumas Meiser if those apples don't belong to him? Can the Levi make the apples that are sitting by me that I said I would give to him as Meiser. They are Meiser, that there's no question about. But I didn't actually makna it to him. I just said I would give it to him. It's Matan Muetes. So is he able to make those into Trumas Meiser? The Gemara Bava Metzia says yes. So would he be able to do so if not for the fact that he actually owns it? Says Rav Chanan. He assumes that not. So if he's able to make it in Trumas Meiser, what do you have to say? That it actually belongs to the Levi. So that's what the Rav Chanan writes. Maybe Raya, line 16. Maybe Raya Matan Muetes Mametzia B'chulei. I'm sorry, getting back to right. Line 17. The fact that making Trumas Meiser Makom Acher, Al Medekani, that proves that there's some sort of kinyan. Just Rav Chanan asks on himself, is that a good raya? Off the record. Is that a good raya that it's a, turn off the mic if you want. Is that a good raya that it's a kinyan? Is it true that if the Levi is able to make it into Trumas Meiser, that's a clear indication that belongs to him? Maybe not so. But that's what Rav Chanan seems to assume at this moment. Just Rav Chanan asks on himself that, hey, how can you say that there's a kinyan involved? After all, the Gemara says in Bava Metzia that when I say I'm going to give you a Matan Muetes, then I'm able to back out. So how could I, Rav Chanan, say, how could Tosfos in Ksibis say that Matan Muetes involves a kinyan? After all, you can back out. Says, well, that's not the end of the world. There's precedent for such a thing, maybe. That there's such a thing as backing out from a matana, from a kinyan. Even though it's a kinyan, you can back out. It's very fun. The whole idea of a kinyan is transfer ownership. Transfer ownership, I can back out. So, strange but true. That's what Rav Chanan says. Okay, we will, for now, stop our discussion of this Rav Chanan and just summarize by saying that Rav Chanan's understanding of Tosfos is that Matan Muetes, in fact, does generate a kinyan, and that is the basis of why is it that the Kohen father is in fact muhsak. So we asked, why should the Kohen father be muhsak? Yisrael, let's go back to the regular screen, please. Why is it that the Kohen father is considered to be muhsak? So the simple wording of Tosfos that since it's improper to back out, that is sufficient basis for being muhsak. On the other hand, the Rav Chanan says no. That which the Kohen father's muhsak is because he actually owned it. And why did he own it? He owned it due to the fact that Matan Muetes generates a kinyan. That's the chiddush of Rav Elchanan. Other Achronim point to the fact that the simple reading of the Gemara Bava Metzia doesn't say anything about a kinyan, and the fact that one is able to back out would seem to indicate that it's not a kinyan. And it's true that Tosfos and Ksibis does seem to have that position, it's a kinyan. That Tosfos and Ksibis doesn't seem to be the understanding which our Tosfos has, because our Tosfos doesn't mention something about a kinyan. Our Tosfos just mentions something about an Isser Las. Okay. I do want to, in the time we have left, mention that there's an additional approach to our Tosfos. Before we go on, let's just point out, though, that according to Rav Chanan, then our Tosfos is extremely similar to which Shita?
Rashbam.
Rashbam, of course. Our Tosfos is very similar to the Rashbam. The only difference being that the Rashbam didn't invoke the concept of Matan Muetes. Rashbam didn't tell us that every Matan Muetes involves a kinyan. Tosfos seems to say that this does involve a kinyan based on Matan Muetes. So the Rashbam and Tosfos are very similar, are basically identical, except for the fact that Tosfos seems to indicate that he understands that Matan Muetes in general involves a kinyan, something which Rashbam wouldn't necessarily assume. Okay, now the kilos.
Rabbi?
Yes, sir. You know what? I'm sorry. Due to the lack of time, I'm going to I want to state briefly the Kilos Yaakov, and then afterwards I'll be happy to take a question. Okay. The Stifler, his approach, his understanding of Tosis is about. He assumes that in fact, Matan Mu'etas by itself doesn't generate a kinyan. Does not generate a kinyan. But he's also not willing to accept the wild chiddush of the Ktsos, that the very fact that I have a moral obligation to give something to somebody would make him into muhsak. Muhsak is only if there is ownership. So hey, so how does he learn Tosus? Very, very simple. He points out that Tosus will agree that matnos kahuna, zer l'chaim in keva, even before I actually hand it over to the Kohen, is something which belongs, as we said when we talked about Rashi, does belong to the Shevet Kahuna. Those will agree to that concept that it belongs to Shevet Kahuna. Just Tos would say the following. Tos would say that if not for the concept of Matan Mu'etes, if not for Makir Kahuna, then the other Kohanim would also, in theory, have the other Kohanim, without the concept of Makir Kahuna, Matan Mu'etes, then it wouldn't belong to that particular Kohen. As a result of the concept of Makir Kahuna, Matan Mu'etes, it belongs to that particular Kohen. How does it belong to that particular Kohen? Well, normally a Yisrael could choose which Kohen he's going to give it to. But in a situation where the Yisrael has an obligation to give it to a particular Kohen, in Makir Kahuna, one has an obligation to give it to a particular Kohen. Why? Based on the concept of Matan Mu'etes, so the fact that I am not allowed to back out, the fact that I am obligated to give it to that Kohen, somehow boxes out the other Kohanim. The Easter that I have to back out from that understanding I'm going to give it to that Kohen, somehow boxes out the other Kohanim. I'm not entirely sure how. You guys will maybe look at the Stipler and get a better understanding of that. But as a result of the fact that even without Makir Kahuna, without Matan Mu'etes, belongs to Shevet Kahuna, so the fact that belongs to Shevet Kahuna, coupled with the fact that I'm not allowed to give it to other Kohanim, since I've been giving my Matnos Kuna to this Kohen, then I have some sort of moral obligation to give it to this Kohen, and I'm not allowed to back out. Somehow the other Kohanim are boxed out, and it's as if this fellow is the only eligible Kohen in the world. And Memela belongs to him. And since it belongs to him, so can he be Morishit to his kids? Yes, he can. He can be Morishit to his kids. Will the Bechor get Pishnayim? Will get Pishnayim. So the crux, the key of this Stipler is the fact that Tosus is also working with the idea that was stated in Rashi in Gittin. I'm sorry, the idea that wasn't stated in Rashi in Gittin, but the idea which we said is the basis of Rashi in Gittin, that Matnos Kahuna belong to the Shevet Kahuna. After all, what did Rashi say in Gittin? Rashi said that why does it belong to that particular Kohen? Why does Makir Kahuna belong to that particular Kohen? Because the other Kohen is Yaish. And we explain, what's that mean? Why the other Kohen is Yaish? But how did it make that particular Kohen? What's the answer? That hey, that particular Kohen is part of the Shevet Kahuna. He's one of the hundreds of thousands of Kohanim. And once the other Kohanim fall away, Memela, he's the only Kohen. Memela, he's the one that's going to get it. He's the one that's going to be the representative of the Shevet Kahuna. So along similar lines, also Tosus is working with the understanding that Matnas Kuna belong to the Shevet Kahuna. Not like perhaps the Tos understood that Matnas Kahuna don't belong to Shevet Kahuna. Maybe the Tos understood that it's a hefker the Kohanim, but it's not already something which belongs to Shevet Kahuna. Rather, Tosos understands, according to the Stapler, that belongs to Shevet Kuna. Just in order for it to belong to a particular Kohen, we need to box out the other Kohanim. How do we box out the other Kohanim? So Rashi said, well, the other Kohanim, they're Yaish, and they box themselves out. According to Tosos, they're boxed out due to the fact that I have a moral obligation to give this Kohen. I'm not allowed to back out from that obligation. That which I'm not allowed to back out from the obligation, that somehow boxes out the other Kohanim. Again, the precise nature as to how that works is something which I have not fully understood yet. You guys maybe will like take a look at Tosos, but just to compare and contrast, there's this chart that we have over here. Guys, see the chart? You guys see the chart? Anybody see the chart?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So you see over here, according to Tosos, is there a concept of muchzak if the father did not have ownership? That's one question. Next, ha'im b'chol matan mu'etes yesh chalos kinyan. Does every matan mu'etes involve a kinyan? That's the second question. Is Tos based on the assumption that Manas Kuna belong to the Shevet Kuna? Tos based on the assumption that Manas Kuna belong to the Shevet Kuna. So let's quickly try to fill out this chart. According to Pashtas Lashon Tosos, is Tosos assuming that Muchzak is even if the Nechasim were not Rebbeila Sa'av? The simple reading tells us. It's Tosos assuming that Muchzak, you know what? For homework, you guys have this chart. Download this chart, or somehow any easy way for guys to download this chart. You know what? I'll try to send this chart to Lineder. You guys will fill it out. Lineder tomorrow, both sides. Perhaps we'll finish up Tosos. Maybe discuss the last Tosos. We saw the first Tosos. Who's been scrolling on the chart? Is it me or you? Okay. In any case, so we'll perhaps discuss a number of other aspects of this discussion. In terms of Mar Makom, also might be a good idea to take a look at Rav Chanan inside. Those that are ambitious to take a look at the Sefer inside. Perhaps there'll be more Mar Makomos tomorrow in the event that not. You might just want to move on in the Gemara Rashba. Here I will say, have a wonderful, wonderful day. We should be zochah to appreciate all the gifts which HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us, and want revenge to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for, amongst other things, for their eretz, chemda, tova, or chava. Also, those that are in Chutz La'aretz, the Gemara writes, "Ala Oretz v'ala Mazon," we're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Holy Land, because the chef on Chutz La'aretz comes to the world through the bracha in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, have a wonderful day. Thank you guys for your participation. Thank you guys for your help. All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Have you guys your question?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you.